And we're back. So, I hope you had a good break. I had a lovely break. It was filled with lentil soup and grilled cheese. It made me feel complete and whole and full and ready to go. So, we are now moving into the second part of cutting all of your pieces. And that is to cut all of the specialty components out of a few of them. I have here with me our two side pieces, our stage deck, and our proscenium. We still need our pencil and sharpener. We need our scale rule, our corkback ruler, our knife, our T-square. And the pieces that we're going to be what we're going to be concentrating on is cutting out all the openings and things like that. We're going to start with the ones that allow us to make mistakes. Why? Because we need a little warm up, right? It's important to think about, the order in which you do things, right? And the more accurate you need to be, the more on point you need to be. Now that I've taken about a 20-minute break, half an hour break, I know that I need something that's going to help me settle back into a process. The same might be true for you. So we are going to start with the sidewalls. Now, I had said that we were going to have a 3-foot deck, right? The stage deck is going to be 3 feet off the ground. So we're going to make a 3-foot by 3-foot border all the way around and cut out the middle, okay? We're going to do that now. So the way we'll start is taking one of the sides, and we're going to make a 3-foot mark twice from each corner, making 8 marks total. That way we can scribe the box using our T-square so that we can completely outline that border all around the square. Then you'll go in with your X-Acto blade and work from the corners out. That way you can make sure that the corner is really, really, really nice and clean. So you see there are these little tags. That's just places where the blade wasn't matching up entirely, right? And they're a little sad, but that's not too terrible. A lot of that comes from not holding your blade completely vertically, and I actually felt myself doing that. So just make sure that you are, in fact, holding your blade vertically against the... And now I'm done with the first one, and I can put that to the side. Scrap. Second verse, same as the first. So here we go with the second side. Again, we make those 8 marks at 3 feet from the corners, and you scribe your lines in just a second here. There we go with the T-square. And make sure that those lines meet up. Then again, working from the corners so that your blade meets in the middle. That's the way to give yourself some clean edges. And make the cuts as long and smooth as you can, so that they'll remain clean as possible. So that's our 2 side walls. Next, we are going to worry about our proscenium. Now, if you look at the plan for the proscenium, right? It has a 40-foot wide opening, 20 foot high, 3 feet off the deck. And you're going to want to do this off of center, and I'm going to show you how to do that now, okay? So the reason why everything goes off of center is that it ultimately makes it more accurate. So for instance, anytime a set is getting loaded in, you're going to find that they walk onto stage and they're going to find the plaster line, which is the line from the back of the wall to the back of the proscenium wall to the back of the proscenium wall. They're going to find center line, and they're going to make themselves a XY axis that they can trust in terms of knowing that it's 90 degrees. The building itself could settle, it could be at a square, it could be doing all sorts of things. But as long as you know that you've got this XY axis that you can trust, you can place things pretty well. So the same is true of modeling, right? if I know in this piece I need to have a 40-foot wide opening that is centered on the piece, don't just do it from the center. Do it from the middle, right? Find the middle of the proscenium and make your mark. All right. So I'm going to find the side that says proscenium, and I'm going to make all my marks on that side. And the first thing I want to do is find center. So we know that this thing should be 60 feet wide. Let's hope it is. And it is. Great. And so I'm going to mark 30. And I'm going to do that up here as well.
So now that I've marked center, I'm going to draw a guideline right down the middle. And now what I want to do is I want to be able to measure from the bottom up. So I'm marking 3 feet up, that's to the top of the stage deck, right? And I'll connect those two lines. And now I have the stage height off the floor. Next point is to measure off center the 20 feet on either side in order to make the proscenium opening. I mark on either side, which is great. And then I'm going to do it up at the top edge as well. That way I can draw those lines up all the way from the bottom and give myself guidelines for the top. Once I'm there, I can measure up that 20 feet and I can make my next mark so that I can complete my rectangle opening. Now I scribe that line and you have your box, right? So the next step is to cut it out. So you place your corkboard back, make sure it's down nice and solid, long lines coming from the corner so you get those nice clean edges, right? And you see I'm doing one side at a time here so that I'm not trying to hurry my way through. That's important. Don't hurry at all.
So you'll see I just made a mistake, right? Now, fortunately, it was on my first. Ooh. Excuse me. So fortunately, it was on my first pass. And so it's only through the top layer, right? Let that first pass be light. That way you can recover. Also, all of my marks are on this side. This is going to be the side that's hidden from the audience, right? The audience, right? Which is also a good thing. Okay. Continuing on without knocking over the whole setup again.
And here we simply pick up where we left off and complete cutting out our proscenium opening. Again, several passes on every cut from the corners, nice long draws so that you have clean edges. Well done.
And there you go. Now we have a proscenium opening. Next, and this is the hardest one. This is not the hardest one because of the first cut. It's going to be the hardest part because of the last cut. Okay. Now we're going to do the stage deck. Okay. And the stage deck is important because it has to fit within that proscenium opening, which means that it's got this fancy notch, right? You see it comes down and then drops, right? And that is going to be actually a coping seam, which we'll get to later. Again, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go off center. So we know that our proscenium opening is 40 feet wide. So the first thing we want to do is find that center line again. That way we can just measure off of that and have the remainder be the remainder, right? The most important seam on the entire model is that place where the stage deck meets the proscenium wall. Okay, so that's what we're doing now. Bum, bum, bum. All right. So first things first, we find center. Now this is 58 feet. 58 divided by 2 is 29 feet.
Mark center, 29 top, bottom, connect the two, and what we're going to do after that is mark the 20 feet off of either side so that we can draw it back by 1 foot, extend it down by the width of a little piece of foam core so that you've drawn out your little bit of a notch. And then we connect that line all the way across. That's going to be a guideline we use later. Then you can cut out your 2 little notches and you have now the little bit of the proscenium opening available.
Now, this moment is the first moment where we're going to see whether or not any of these measurements work. Okay? We've got the notch, right? And we've got the proscenium. We know the notch is supposed to fit in the proscenium. So that's what I'm going to test right now. And look at that. It's like butter. You can't really see it. You can see it here though. So that looks really nice. Now, one of the things you're going to note is you see how you can see the foam here? That's ugly. We don't want this to be ugly. We want it to be nice and hidden. So what we need to do is we need to cut away some of this material and do a coping seam. So a coping joint, really, is what we're talking about. So I'm going to take this out, and I already have my guideline for it, which is awesome. We love that. We love guidelines. Guidelines are so good. And then
to replace my blade, because having a good blade for a cut like this is really, really important. When you need to, give yourself a fresh start.
Good. Now, one of the things that you want to really, 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 really be aware of is that you are trying to cut through the top layer of paper and the foam. You are trying to not cut through all the way, which means you're likely to leave some foam uncut. That's fine. Rather do that than cut too much, because if you cut it away, you're not getting it back. Okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to line this up. I'm going to put nice pressure on there. And note, I'm making it line up almost like exactly with that line, right? And I'm going to scribe the paper line. And then I'm going to go through a little bit deeper. And I'm going to stop there. And see, I haven't put any, it's not making a mark along here, which is good. Now, what you need to do, and this is where you're going to freehand, and this is the most dangerous part. You're going to hold it nice and tight, and you want the blade to get in just behind this paper. And you want it to cut back just behind the paper, so you're cutting away the foam, and that's it. There might be some places where you start slipping through the paper. Be wary of those. Right now, it is better to leave a bit of foam than it is to cut through the paper. Great. Now that I've done that, see, I just did it without the ruler, and I need to use the ruler. Silly Charlie. Okay. There's that. And there we go, right? So what you've got now, let me put that back, right, is this piece, and it doesn't have any of the foam there. It might have a little bit, and if it does, what you can do is now, actually want it on the edge here, so that your blade has a place to go. You can sort of scrape away. Now I'm using the back of the blade, right? So the blade is actually, right? So it's actually facing away from the thing. And I'm drawing it back. And it's just catching a little bit of that foam. And if I take a couple minutes just to do this and clean this up, it's actually going to make a big difference in the seam.
And you want to continue this along the entire edge, taking it slow. Take your time doing this because you don't want the blade to slip and mess up anything in your seam. Make sure it's nice and clean Take your time, enjoy it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you now have completed all of your specialty cuts. You've got a coped edge for your stage deck. You've got your proscenium. You have your two sides. Well done. Take a break.